Matthew, everyday audiophile, music lover, and beer enthusiast. Now, today we have the Mississippi Fire Ant Red Ale. Not from Texas, this is from Mississippi, from when I was in Gulf Shores, and it's just something that I had to try. But this is my first time, and I'm going to try it here with you. So let's open it up. Let's hope for a good pour. Oh, I can already smell it. It's definitely a red ale. Not typically my favorite style of beer, but hey, I do love trying new beers. Yeah, it's a little bit much for me. I usually love most types of beers. Red ales are the ones that I don't typically find myself ordering when I go out. And this one is a strong red ale at 8%. But that's not what we're talking about today. So first, I have to apologize. The video today is a little bit later than normal. I usually release them at noon on Mondays. And today's video was going to be about another audio meetup that was in Dallas. Unfortunately, the person hosting it had some issues with their gear and had to cancel last minute, which left me to figure out what today's video is going to be about. And as you know, I've been on this trek with Supersense and lacquers and just realizing the pure awesomeness that these lacquers are. Yes, there is a lot of debate on how they degrade, how fast they degrade, etc. But while I have them, I am going to be reviewing them one by one and just figuring out what I like and what I don't like and what makes it truly unique from vinyl. Besides the fact that it's a generation ahead of what a vinyl would be, since a stamper that's used for the vinyl is made from the lacquer itself. So on Supersense's website, they have it split into really two categories. They have the live at Supersense, so these are just live recordings that they've had from artists at their venue, and then the master cut recordings, which are actual album releases that they go and get the tape and do a direct one-to-one transfer or one-to-one cut to lacquer, so to speak. The one today is a live at Supersense. This is the edition number 2, Guy Chambers. This is piano, for those that don't know, and this was actually my first introduction into Guy Chambers as a pianist. It's not an instrument that I usually find myself fawning over and falling in love with, but I have to say, at a high level, there is something deep with this lacquer, something that just is visceral, that you just have to put down your phone. You have to listen to it from beginning to end because there is so much emotion in his playing. It is unlike anything that I've ever heard from any other recording of a piano, even his other recordings. But let's break it down. Let's talk about why I feel like that. I gotta let my folks know that today's video is gonna be late. So let's talk a little bit about this album. When was it recorded? What are the tracks on it? You know, stuff like that. So according to the info panel here, this was recorded on June 12th, 2022, and cut to disc, or cut on lacquer, July 26th of that same year. So about a month later, they were cutting from that tape to lacquer. And I just want to repeat every time I talk about the Supersense, the thing that they do, the thing that their claim to fame is that they are not mastering anything. They are not mastering while they're cutting this to lacquer. It is a pure one-to-one transfer, so you're not getting any EQ. Any issues that there were in the original recording are going to be recorded onto that lacquer as well. And that has its pros, and it has its cons. As I've talked about with, say, the Oscar Peterson We Get Requests album, there are some subtleties in the music that just don't come through in the digital versions. And while there is no digital version of this live at Supersense album, same with the Gregory Porter that I talked about previously. On this album, there are 4 tracks per side. So on side A, we have Heaven From Here, New Age, No Regrets, and Road to Mandalay. On side B, Feel, Millennium, Sheer Isis, and Angels. Now, that isn't a whole lot to go off of, but I will say you can find some of these tracks in other recordings, and that is a good starting place for what kind of sound you're going to come to expect. Like I said, when I got this, I had never heard of him. I'd never heard his music before, so when I queued this up, it was the first time that I'd ever experienced him. And as I said earlier, there is just this lifelikeness that you get from a lacquer that I don't get from any of my records. Even the really nice audio knots or analog productions, UHQRs, those all sound wonderful. And they have an innate quality that sets them apart from even other records, right? Those are usually one step. So you go from lacquer to the straight to the stamper, and then from that stamper they'll do about 500 pressings before they make a new stamper. And for a record, that is incredibly close to the original source. But even then, there is this body to the piano that is hard to put into words unless you hear it yourself. Which, speaking of that, I do have a 30-second sample that I've uploaded to my website, everydayaudiophile.com. That'll be linked down below for you to go and have a listen. It is the Mini DSP A2P that, while it's not the highest quality analog to digital converter, it does measure very well. And I do record in 192.24. And I would say that it captures 80% of the magic. There is still some loveliness that it doesn't capture, but you get the emotion. So the 30 seconds will be available on the website, and I really want you to go hear it. Yes, you'll be able to hear that it's not clean like a digital copy. It still has some of that vinyl or lacquer sound, but there's just a visceral emotion there. I keep on wanting to use that word because it is so true. Now, where does that leave us going forward? This was not my planned topic for today. This was going to be that review of the audio meetup, which I was so incredibly excited. This was going to be a follow-up on a previous episode covering the Karma speakers and the Aries Seurat. He went and moved into a brand new space, upgraded the amps and the preamp, and from what I've heard, that space and the new setup has solved all of the somewhat issues that I had with the previous, with the slightly hot mid-range. So looking forward to that in August sometime, and I will definitely be sharing my thoughts when it actually happens. But until then, what you can expect next week, I have been running Audio Linux on my Holo Audio Red. So this is just Audio Linux without Diretta. And in next week's video, I do plan on comparing it to just Gen 2 player on the Holo Audio Red again. So we're going to take Diretta out of the equation, and we're just going to compare Audio Linux versus Gen 2 player next week. But until then, I will talk with y'all later. See ya.